Hey everyone, Paul Johnson, Waconia, Minnesota, and part of the Laughing Trail Fly Tying Club. Today I'm going to be tying a 20-incher stone, so it's a Stonefly nymph. It's a really good pattern, and for some reason it ends up on the bottom of my fishing pack and doesn't get fished nearly as much as it should, because every time we take this thing out, it's going to catch fish. So it's a pretty big and pretty ugly fly. I tie it on a size 10 Tiemco 200R. I have a red bead. It's a brass bead. I do have a bunch of wraps of lead-free wire under that, and I'll show you that in a second. For the tail, it's brown Goose Biots. The abdomen is Peacock Herl, and then there's a ribbing of copper wire. The wing case is Pheasant tail. The legs are Hungarian Partridge. And then the thorax, if you will, is some dark brown Squirrel dubbing. So I'll show you how this all goes together. I've already put all the lead-free wire wraps on there. I use 0.015. You could certainly use 0.020 or 25. I like to keep the little bit smaller profile, but I just wanted to add the extra weight because it's a brass bead. And again, I just had red beads. I think it looks kind of cool. The good choices would be nickel or black, anything dark like that. So we started my thread, get it right about to the hook point. And next I've got 2 Goose Biots, and I've put them back to back so they splay out. And just like we would on a pheasant tail nymph, I'm going to just make a collective wrap, securing wrap. Make sure I'm okay with how those things look, and they're okay. So I'm going to bind that down the rest of the way up to where my lead-free wire wraps start, to just keep a nice profile to it. Next, I've got a length of copper wire. Tie that in again, starting with it right behind those lead wraps. And now I've got, and I just dropped them all, I have 7 Peacock Herl fibers. Take me just a second here to reorientate them. And then I need to even up the tips, so I'll just clip those off. So I've got all my tips evened up, and I'll tie those in again, starting right behind the lead wraps. And I'm going to use my rotary feature in my vise. So I'm going to bring my thread up to about the 3/4 point or so. Throw a 1/2 inch in there, swing my bobbin cradle around, and then I'll rotate my vise to wrap these herls in. So just take your time. You can actually build up a little bit of a body, making it a little bit thicker as you go along, so you can add some overlapping wraps until we get up to about that 3/4 point. Swing that cradle out of the way, and then I'll secure that Peacock Herl, and we can just clip off that excess. With Peacock Herl, I always like to counter wrap my wire. Makes it stand out a little bit more. I don't know that it really adds any durability to the fly versus a regular wrap, but I think it just stands out a little bit better. So bring that forward. I could secure that. A couple wraps of tying thread. You can helicopter that off, or just come in there with a fingernail clipper. Now, next I've got 14 strands of pheasant tail nymph fibers. Tie that in. That's going to get folded back up for the wing case. So we're going to go back to about the 1/4 point, 3/4 point, which direction you want to go. Next, I've got a Hungarian Partridge feather, and I've pulled all the fuzzies off of it. And then I've pulled the fibers back, grabbed it by the center stem, and then I clipped it off with that little triangle. And we're going to tie this feather in on top of the hook shank, right on top of that pheasant tail that we tied in. And the concave portion of this feather should be orientated up, so the curve is facing up to the front of the fly. Now I've got some dark brown squirrel dubbing for the thorax. And it's got a pretty pronounced thorax, so it's going to take me a couple applications here, get this dubbing on thick enough. So we're going to build up that entire thorax area with this dubbing. And I use dark brown. I like the dark brown, but I've also got the red bead on there. If you're going to use a black or a nickel bead, you can certainly put a lighter color thorax on here. Just personal preference and how you want the fly to look. All right, so that should be pretty good now. So now I'm going to gently pull that peacock feather forward, and I'll just slip my fly tying thread in between some of those fibers and secure that in place. See if you can see how that looks. Now I'll clip off that excess, and then I'll pull that pheasant tail fiber wing case forward. Now what I like to do is I like to whip finish at this point, and what that does, it prevents the thread from pushing around that wing case, because I don't want it to slip around the far side of the hook. I want it to stay right on top. Clip off that excess, and then got a lot of dubbing in here. I'll come in with my dubbing brush and just tease some of that squirrel dubbing out of there. And so that's what you got. Now you can hit that wing case if you want with a little bit of Flexament, or not Flexament, but like a UV resin or epoxy, shine it up. But so that's it. Kind of a, if you will, a bottom dredging big fly and big stonefly nymph. So check that out and give them a try. And I hope this season that I get this fly to the front of my pack instead of the back of the pack. And I hope you will too. Hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you.